From throwing shade at his ex-team's loss on Instagram, to spilling the beans on his forced friendship with Joel Embiid, here's all about Ben Simmons taking savage swipes at the 76ers. First off, can this man chill? Okay, so for those of you who didn't catch it, in the second round of the playoffs, the 76ers were eliminated by the Celtics, falling in a lopsided Game 7 loss. Ben Simmons, who used to play for the Sixers before things went sour in 2022, seemed to have been watching the game, and didn't miss the chance to make fun of his old squad. Yep, Simmons wasted no time in celebrating the Sixers' postseason exit, and posted a thinly veiled jab at his ex-team on his Instagram story. Mind you, this is a guy whose Instagram is dead. The last time he posted was like in November of last year. But of course he had to make a comeback to throw shade, eh? Nothing stopped him from posting a shoddily timed story on May 15th, in what I call a horrible attempt at being subtle. The guy posted a story with the Sixers match against the Celtics being played in the background. P.S. Philadelphia was down by 30 points in the fourth quarter. The Celtics were almost certain to win at that time, and it appeared as if Simmons was enjoying the moment with a glass of red wine. The Celtics ultimately won that match 112-88, securing a spot in the Eastern Conference Finals. Very subtle indeed. You see, since his catastrophic playoff performance in 2021, there's been little love lost between Simmons and the Sixers. But still, this guy has some nerve, considering how he hasn't even made a single bucket in months. You might remember how before being dealt to the Brooklyn Nets, in return for the former league MVP James Harden, Ben sat out for the whole of the 2021-22 season. The 26-year-old played for the Nets in 42 games this season, but he didn't look like the player he once was, recording career lows in points, rebounds, and assists per game. In the first round of the 2023 playoffs, Simmons' Nets met the 76ers, a series that Philadelphia swept. But the Australian has missed every game since he was out with a back injury. In fact, ever since the 2021 defeat to Atlanta, he's only participated in 33 NBA games, and has seen his own downward spiral from singular brilliance to a useless ex-All-Star without a clear NBA job. While the 76ers once again underwhelmed, Simmons' entire career has been the poster child of NBA disappointment. With the exception of his bank, of course. He's doing pretty well in that department. In the remaining 2 years of his current contract, the three-time NBA All-Star is expected to make over $116 million before becoming an unrestricted free agent in the summer of 2025. Now that Simmons can no longer play at that level, the Nets will enter the offseason with just hope and no concrete proof that their expensive star will 1. Be able to play, and 2. Play at that level. Before a bad back forced him to retire after just 42 appearances, his average was a career-low 6.9 points, 6.3 rebounds, and 6.1 assists. Yikes. Maybe he should have thought about that before throwing shade, because people are coming at him with receipts. Social media users took notice of Simmons' shade, and coming off the bench, ESPN commentator Kendrick Perkins poked fun at the Nets guard with a sharp retort of his own, implying that Simmons has been watching games at home all season. Oof. After all, the former Sixers player, whose superstar and current head coach put him under the bus after a similar second-round loss 2 years ago, stunned and yes, outraged many analysts with his audacity. Stephen A. simply said that he tried to give Ben Simmons a chance, but he's embarrassed by how he's been the past few years. And say what you will about Joel Embiid and James Harden, at least they put on a uniform, show up to an arena, and step onto a basketball floor. Also, Philly fans each have their own opinions. Between James Harden's neck and the cry for Doc Rivers, it was restrained as usual. Who am I kidding? They were coming for his neck, asking for the guy to be shipped back down under. This wasn't the first time Philly fans gave him such a hard time. Remember what happened in February of 2023? Ben was literally putty in the hands of 76ers star Joel Embiid. In their first encounter, after the Australian was dealt to the Brooklyn Nets, and the 76ers won 137-133. Unsurprisingly, Philadelphia's best player was Embiid, who finished the game with 26 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists, and 2 steals in 35 minutes. He connected on 6 of his 18 field goal attempts and 1 of his 5 deep attempts, with a final tally of 12 points and 5 assists on 5 of 7 shooting from the field. Simmons, who rested for the majority of the fourth quarter, was practically a non-factor offensively for the Nets. He finished the game with 5 rebounds and 1 block as well. So, naturally, after the game, 76ers supporters and NBA Twitter ripped at Simmons for coming back to Philadelphia. They called him allergic to scoring and made fun of the fact that the crowd was laughing at him. It was ugly. The Brooklyn Nets guard knew he had an angry welcome home waiting for him in his first game in the city. From the moment that Simmons entered the Wells Fargo Center court for warm-ups against the 76ers to the first time he brought up the ball against his former team, he received a barrage of boos. Oh yeah, haters of the Sixers cursed, transformed worn-out number 25 jerseys into works of art, and basically let the erratic guard have it by turning the game into a nightmare for him. They have their reasons. Ben was adored by the 76ers, and they believe he abandoned the team that selected him with such high hopes. It's like LeBron going from Cleveland hero to villain. But what's Ben's side of the story? He claimed in an interview for JJ Redick's podcast, The Old Man and the Three, that he doesn't look back on his time playing for the Philadelphia 76ers and wishes he had done nothing differently. Yep, not even on that play. When it came to the controversial pass to Matisse Thybulle in Game 7 against the Atlanta Hawks, Redick responded to Simmons' mention of the play by stating, for whatever reason, that's the play that everyone talks about. Well, duh. That was the first crack in the masterpiece that was Simmons. After joking that it was the 100-point basket, Simmons went on to describe the situation from his point of view. Much as he'd done following the game, he wheeled baseline and passed to Thybulle, believing that Trae Young and Danilo Gallinari would both be there to block his shot. He admits that in his panic state of thinking fast, he made that blunder, but he didn't expect it to become that big. From 2017 through 2019, Simmons and Redick shared the court in Philadelphia. The two enjoyed reminiscing about the Sixers' 16-game winning streak to end the 2017-18 regular season, a run in which Simmons was the star due to Joel Embiid's injury. They also chuckled about Simmons signing Redick by text message during the 2016-17 season. But when asked about being penalized for not playing, the mood changed. Simmons responded, "It's not about the money for me now. Peace and joy are what I need." He revealed that not receiving support from the team at the time he needed it the most changed something in him. On the subject of arriving late to training camp and how he was expelled from the practice session, the Australian revealed he'd made himself clear to the coach beforehand that he wasn't mentally okay to proceed, but was put on the spot, which made him feel singled out. Oh, and apparently, after things got bad, the team wanted to take a plane to Los Angeles to persuade him to return to the squad. But that never ended up happening. Simmons laughed it off on the podcast, saying nobody came to him while he was there, struggling for months. So the team probably wanted to make a public gesture. Ah well, I guess both sides of the story make sense now. Speaking of public gestures, did y'all know Ben's friendship with Joel was forced at best? You might remember that when he was eventually traded to the Brooklyn Nets, he was called out by Joel Embiid and Doc Rivers. Simmons discussed his friendship with his former 76ers colleague in an interview, saying he doesn't really know Embiid. When asked if he has lately spoken with him, Simmons responded, "I don't speak with Joe. We didn't really talk much." Yep, despite playing together for more than 5 seasons, the two never developed a strong bond off the court. Tells you everything, no? So, from spilling the beans on his forced friendship with Joel Embiid to throwing massive shade at his ex-team's loss on Instagram, this was all about Ben Simmons taking savage swipes at the 76ers.